The Tycoon has a lot, and I mean a lot of vehicles which are specifically designed at being good at air-to-air combat or just controlling the sky in general. And since all the planes have recently received quite a lot of balance changes, I thought, why not make a video of the top 10 best planes when it comes to overall air combat. I'm not talking about multi-row, which is going to be purely making a list based on these planes' air performance. So let's just jump right into it. Alrighty, so first about at number 10, starting off of the F117 and Seahawk. This vehicle to me and a lot of people is really hit or miss. It used to be overpowered on release, however really doesn't feel like that anymore. And the simple reason why is because there's so many different countermeasures to the main weaponry of this vehicle. You got stealth, and most other vehicles just have a lot more flare counts, so you're pretty easily able to deal with this. However, that isn't the only problem of the missiles on the Seahawk. They're extremely unreliable against really any vehicle. They just can end up forgetting what target they're aiming at the next second after the missile is fired. However, when it comes to dogfighting performance, it's got really good turning speed. However, the issue is it has stealth and no other countermeasure, so when you're going to be fighting some vehicles in air-to-air combat, you're probably going to lose and die to missiles in a lot of cases. However, that isn't the only problem. This vehicle is also just a massive hitbox, and it costs you 12 parts. I don't know, man. I feel like this vehicle is just way too unreliable. I wish it was a little bit better. I wish that they buffed it maybe a bit. But yeah, let's just jump into the number 9 spot, and at this spot I got the F-16 Falcon. So the F-16 is genuinely really good when it comes to air-to-air combat now because of the recent buff which they gave it, and that's going to be giving it the short-range missiles. These things are absolutely insane. I love the short-range missiles because they're so fast when it comes to lock-on speed, and the missile also travels so fast to the point that in a lot of cases the enemy won't even have time to flare once you fire missiles at them, so you can end the fight by just going behind someone, hitting them with all 4 missiles, and they won't even be able to do anything in most cases. It's so good. However, if you do get into a dogfight with a plane, let's say, you're also going to be able to deal with that quite easily, and that's because the missile can lock on so fast once again, so you can end up getting really cheap damage in the middle of the fight. Now, along with this, the F-16 also just has a really good hitbox. It has a part cost of 6 parts, which is just crazy to me, and its turning speed is also pretty good. It's on the higher end of vehicles in this game. Anyway, now moving into the Eurofighter at the 8th spot. So I wish I could place the Eurofighter much higher after their buff, and a lot of people will be saying that I'm crazy for not placing it that high. However, the reason why this is the case is because the Eurofighter has some outstanding problems for it in my personal opinion, and that's going to be the fact that its cannon is really inaccurate in my opinion, and it also feels kind of misplaced with the crosser. So you have to really get used to the cannon itself to be able to perform really well with the Eurofighter. But other than this vehicle is really good because it does have the 4 air-to-air missiles, which have the highest lock-on range out of really any plane in the game that's designed for fighting vehicles in air-to-air combat, so you can kind of end fights without actually fighting the opponent. I think the Eurofighter is really good at doing this. When it comes to its dogfighting performance against planes, it's also really good. It's on the higher end of turning speed. I believe it's somewhat similar to the F-22, but probably a little bit lower, and the vehicle is also kind of cheap. So anyway, now next I'm moving into the number 7 spot, and I got the Su-47 Berkut. So I know you guys are probably gonna say, but the vehicle is massive. Well, that is literally the only problem of the Su-47 Berkut, and you don't have to be dogfighting every opponent to win. This thing costs you 8 parts, it's got 6 air-to-air missiles, which is crazy, dude. Along with this, you also got the turning circle of the Su-57 and F-22 roughly around there in the middle, which is just crazy after the recent buff. This vehicle is able to really also have some insane multi-role capabilities, which I'm not going to be covering today. However, the fact that a dogfighting vehicle, which is so good at that job, is able to also have multi-role on top of that, it just puts it so much higher for me personally. But I'm not going to be really talking about this as much anymore. I do believe the Su-47 Berkut is really good. If you do use it correctly, you're really going to be able to go on some crazy kill streaks. It does usually have some glitches because the missiles sometimes don't work, but I cannot be rating this vehicle's performance based on bugs. Anyway, next up, moving into the number 6 spot, we got the F-35B. So the F-35B to a lot of people seem to be a hit or miss, and the reason why is because of the cannon placement itself. Yes, that is a problem if you are not going to be able to manage the cannon's placement. That's why whenever you're going into a dogfight, in a lot of cases, you actually want to be entering the fight by fully twisting your plane by 180 degrees. If you do manage to do this, then you're going to be able to actually have much higher chances of hitting your opponent before your opponent can hit you. However, let's take a look at some other things which the F-35B is also good at. It's got 4 air-to-air missiles, which are honestly kinda good, to be honest with you. Their damage is more than enough to destroy any helicopter or plane after the recent buff, which is definitely really good. However, along with this vehicle also just has so much health. It has got Veto, which can also be quite useful if you do actually find out how to use it well. So I very much suggest you guys to be trying to learn the F-35B. It is a good dogfighter, you just need to get a little bit better at using it. Now moving into number 5, we got the Su-57. It's kind of the same problem as the Berkut, however once again that is its only problem. The Su-57 has comparable turning speed to the F-22 along with some other top tier jets. Along with this vehicle also has 6 missiles, which is once again really crazy. It doesn't really have much more than that. It is a really basic vehicle to use, and there's no more that I really need to talk about when it comes to this vehicle. It's just so solid, man. Anyway, next I'm moving into the number 4 spot, and I'm gonna be placing the F-35I in there. The F-35I is still a great multi-role jet, but once again, we're not gonna be talking about that. When it comes to its dogfighting capabilities, the main things which I really love about the F-35I is going to be its countermeasures. I think it has some of the best countermeasures in the game just due to the pure fact that the reload speed is so good on the electronic warfare, because most vehicles have their stealth which lasts for like 25 seconds. This thing has a reload speed of I believe 10 seconds, and the electronic warfare also lasts for 10 seconds, so it almost works like flurs, and you really don't need to have electronic warfare for a longer amount of time. So 10 seconds is more than enough to be able to deal with anyone that's really trying to missile spam you. However, this thing has comparable turning speed to the F-22 once again. It's got 4 really good missiles, and along with this, its hitbox is so small, dude. You're not gonna be hitting this thing if you're not that great at the game. Next, I'm moving into the F-47 and the number 3. So the F-47 once again is a vehicle that needs to be managed because of its hitbox. However, in my opinion, out of all the planes which have hitbox problems, the F-47 suffers the least from them because its hitbox is just structured much more differently. The other ones are just really fat in general. The F-47 is kinda slim, however its wings are kinda massive in my opinion. But yeah, let's actually take a look at some things which it's really good at. First of all, it has the most air-to-air missiles in the game. It is insane how much damage this thing is able to get out. Along with this, it's got comparable turning circle to the F-22. Once again, it's got stealth, and on top of this, 2 flurs. This vehicle has the best countermeasures in the game because it has 2 flurs along with stealth. It is the only vehicle that can actually do this in this game. So I had to literally say that twice because of how good that is. And it does have one issue along with this, which is obviously going to be its 11 part cost, but I think you can definitely manage this vehicle well and not die in it to the point that the parts will be mattering this much. But anyway, let's actually move into the number 2 spot, and this can really go either way. I'm gonna be placing the F-22 at the number 2. So the reason why this is the case is because the F-22 has been buffed so much over the recent update. Now it's a 9 cost vehicle, so its cost efficiency is honestly pretty great. Its air-to-air missiles were always really good. Its turning speed is by far the best in the game. Some vehicles come close to it, however by far this is still the best. Now along with this, the F-22 also has one really good feature standing for it, unlike some other dogfighting jets. It has 3 flurs, unlike some other ones, so you're able to really defend yourself from quite a lot of missiles. Of course it doesn't have stealth, which we all been requesting, but honestly I don't think that's that big of a deal once again if you consider its fleur count. But yeah, let's actually move into the number 1 spot, and that's gonna be the F-35A. So this vehicle, once again, I could say could go either way between that and the F-22. Personally, I prefer the F-35A for a few key reasons. One of them would be that I prefer a stealth and flare combo. It really depends on what player you are, but I prefer it myself. It also has better lock-on range for its missiles, which goes up to, I believe, 3,200 stats or so, which is genuinely pretty crazy. Along with this, it's got basically the same turning speed as the F-22. It costs you 9 parts, and it just has 2 extra missiles than it instead of the 2 bombs which the F-22 has. I think this vehicle is much more designed for air capabilities than the F-22 itself, and I think it's by far the best in the game when it comes to this. Once again, these two vehicles could counter each other out so easily. However, I believe the F-35A does get the edge when it comes to overall air combat. But yeah, for the time being, that's all I have for you guys in today's video. Do let me know in the comment section down below what is your favorite air-to-air jet in this game, and I'll see you guys in the next video.